So the full Outeniqua Trail is 7 days long. The full trail isn't open at the moment. The first 2 days are closed due to the huts being damaged. So we started on day number 3 basically, and we did the last 5 days of hiking. There are other options available, but we wanted to try to do the majority of the trail as much as possible. So we started at Hotveld. There's a little station there with a ranger, and he checks your permits and he'll guide you, show you which way to go. I think they open there at 8 o'clock in the morning. The trail from Hotveld to Millwood Hut is about 8 kilometers. We decided to take a slightly longer option. There's a few trails, a few different variations that you can take up to the actual Outeniqua Trail. We decided to go via Deepwall because we wanted to have a slightly longer hike there. The Deepwall trail isn't maintained. We had to navigate a lot of trees that fell across the trail, and in some places we had to go quite a bit off trail around these tree fells, through very thick fern bushes, and got quite a few scratches. At one point it took about 15 minutes just to go 10 meters, just to give you an idea of the intensity of that. So if you do decide to go that way, be warned, you could run into anything on that section since it's not maintained. So it's probably recommended to take the route that they do maintain. From there, a very nice place to stop is Jubilee Creek. It's a nice picnic spot. It's got a river, it's got some benches, some bathrooms I think, and it's also got some nice tables and things to sit on. So we stopped there for a bit, had a bit of a snack, had some breakfast, and then from there we went on to Millwood Hut. We went past the waterfall, so there's a little day trail from Jubilee Creek that takes you to the waterfall. It's very nice and pleasant in the forest. There's some old mines in the area as well that you can just walk past and check out. And after leaving the waterfall route, there's a sign that shows which way the Outeniqua hikers need to go, and you go up quite a steep hill. It's the first time we had a nice clear view for the day. Everything else was in forest, and it was nice and hot on that hill. Gets quite tiring by that time of the day, and then just as you think like, is this ever going to end, you reach Millwood Hut. And on that hill we actually found a little baby egg eater, which was quite nice. So Millwood Hut has warm water, and it has electricity. When they say electricity, it means there's one plug for 6 people to try and charge their phones. So just be warned about that. There's also wood and a fireplace there. It's a beautiful old farmhouse, lots of character. And yeah, we definitely enjoyed staying there. The only thing that you have to remember is to take your own fire starters, because they supply, there's wood and usually an axe at the hut, but not fire lighters or fire starters, so just take those along. On day 2 we hiked from Millwood to Rondebossie, and that's 17 kilometers. They say approximately 5 hours. I think we did it in about 6.5 to 7 hours, including our breaks, because we found quite a few places to stop and relax and just take in the beautiful nature that was around us. So the day starts off with a nice easy hike along a jeep track, going along the contours, so it's not very steep at all. It's a nice pleasant walk. You can really cover some good ground there, and then you go into the forest and you go down to the Nizna River, which is crossed using a rope that spans across, or more like a cable I think. It's a very easy crossing. The river was quite high, it wasn't in flood, so I presume that if the level of water gets higher, then it could become a bit more tricky and you'd have to pull yourself across with that rope that spans the river. After the river crossing we had a nice stop there, and then the trail follows the river. It goes up a little bit and it follows the river for a while, and you climb over a few wooden ladders and interesting things like that, and then you head up the slope, and it gets quite it's not steep, but it gets quite long, so it's just this continuous gradual uphill, but it's beautiful in the forest, and when you start to get to the top, you get a nice view over the looking back, and then the trail sort of levels out for a while and you make your way to the hut. So at Rondebossie Hut there's no electricity, there's only cold water, but it is quite a nice beautiful hut. It's got 3 separate sleeping areas. I think each sleeping area can sleep, I think it's up to about 12, 14 hikers possibly. Got nice ablutions, and just about a 200-300 walk down there's a nice river, and we went for a quick swim in the evening before settling in for the night. So day 3 for us was Rondebossie to Deepwall. It says only 13 kilometers on the map, plus minus about 5 hours of hiking. We all agreed, according to our GPSs and Garmin's, that this day was slightly longer than 13. So I think it's bargain on about more like 15 kilometers. I think it took us about 6 hours, but there is some really incredible places to stop. So we probably stopped a bit more than we should have, or there's no such thing as stopping too much when you find a nice view. So on this day from the hut you go down and you cross the Royals River. You just basically walk across some stones there. It's not a very big river, it's more like a stream. And then you get a jeep track and you follow the jeep track. The jeep track heads off right. At first we thought we were going left to Jonkersberg, but you actually make a big arc around Jonkersberg and you approach it from completely the other side than the view that you got from Rondebossie Hut. So we thought we were going to head straight up the slope of the mountain and then go through the neck, but actually the trail goes around the mountain, along the jeep track, then through some nice forest, and then it starts to slowly ascend. It's a nice long gradual incline, and then you go left towards the mountain and you sort of go around up to the viewpoint on the mountain. So you don't go all the way to the summit. The trail just goes to a lookout tower, which I think is 789 here, 789 meters above sea level elevation. It's a beautiful place to stop, some incredible views, and then from this point you slowly descend along through the neck that we actually thought we were going to hike straight to the earlier on that day. When you get to the neck, you're about 7 kilometers in, and then you descend into one of the most beautiful forests that I've come across. It was probably the most beautiful section of forest for me personally on this trail. So I think it's here, the Van Huissteenbos, that area. We found some lovely pools to swim in, not deep pools, but you can sit in them, and we had some snacks there. And then we hiked on across the Gona River. There's a bridge that crosses it, so it doesn't need to be, you don't need to get your feet wet, but it's also not a very big river. It's a nice place to just take a quick dip there before you reach Deepwall Hut. At Deepwall Hut there is electricity and there's also warm water. This is where the famous, I think it's a tea garden or a place that sells Mozart is, but they are at the moment, due to COVID and all these things, currently closed, so hopefully they open later. The hut is a beautiful wooden hut, sort of reminds you of like a wooden cabin, and it is unfortunately slightly closer to civilization, as you can hear some cars on the forest road down below, but it was an incredible experience to overnight there. So on day number 4 we hiked from Deepwall to Fisantehoek. It's 16 kilometers according to the map, plus minus 5 hours. I think we hiked about 6 hours if I'm not mistaken. Another beautiful day. This day the hiking was a little bit easier than the previous day. Up to Jonkersberg you had a lot more elevation. On the trail here it was basically gradual descents down to like little streams and rivers, and then slow gradual uphill. So you're not walking on flat ground a lot, but at least it's not very intense uphill and downhill. You pass the Petrus Brandeiland here. It's a beautiful place to stop, the river there. Fisantehoek Hut also didn't have hot water. There's only a bath and a bucket, so you kind of have to do a makeshift shower there. It's also an old farmhouse, got lovely character, and we actually saw a badger that night. Well, I didn't personally see it, but Simone actually saw a badger that night with a headlamp, so that was very, very cool to know that these animals are around. And you could actually see their diggings as you walk up to the hut. We could see that something looked like it had plowed the ground there, and we found out that that was actually a badger. So that was very, very cool. So on day number 5, we hiked from Fisantehoek to Orkeville. This is a very, well, probably the shortest day of our whole trip. 12 kilometers, and it took us about 3 hours. It's very, very comfortable, gradual walking. Basically most of the day it's slow downhills, so you can cover the ground quite fast if you want to. At a stage you cross the N2 road, and you just have to be careful there because there's literally no bridges, or there's no way to go under the road or anything like that. You have to walk across the N2, so you have to be very careful because there's trucks flying past you. There was a ranger there keeping an eye on us, and he guided us in the right direction. But yeah, you cross the N2 on that day, and then you head off left to Walkable Hut. Once you cross the N2, there's still a little bit of hiking to do. We thought the hut was going to be just after the crossing, but you still have a few kilometers before you reach Walkable Hut. And the last bit to Walkable Hut, there is a little bit of a gradual incline, so you just got to hang in there and make it to the hut, because at the hut there's warm water, there's electricity, there's a nice fireplace, and there's also a garage close by if you want to go and get some fresh snacks. So to me, this is a fantastic way if you're looking for an immersive experience in the garden route. We didn't expect as much inclines and declines as there actually was, because if you look at the profile, you know, it looks relatively flat, and we thought, you know, it seems like it's going to be pretty flat most days, but the slightest little dip and uphill that they indicate on this profile is a proper uphill and downhill, and it's not very steep, but it's these long gradual uphills and downhills, and it can get quite taxing if you're not fit enough, or if your bag is too heavy. So definitely something to take into consideration is to pack light, to prepare well for this journey. And what I really like about it is basically every second night you've got warm water and electricity. There was only one of the huts that the hot water wasn't working, or there was no hot water. But I think in general you can bargain on every second night there at least being some sort of power outlet to charge your phone or something like that. But it's always recommended to be prepared for anything. Another tip that I can give you is to organize within your group, and each person carries one block of fire starter per night, so that you can make a nice fire in the evenings. We found wood at all the huts. There seem to be axe and big blocks of wood in a little shed at some of the huts as well. So wood won't be, well, it seems like it isn't a problem there, but you do need to start the fire, and some of the wood had rained slightly wet, so it's definitely advisable to do that. It's just a really nice way to sit around a fire at the end of the day and have a chat and have a nice meal. So from Walkable Hut we did the Walkable Trail, because we wanted to hike for 7 days, but I'll outline that in another video. Since it's a separate route, but if you want to do that, you can resupply at Walkable. You can drive through to Plate. So another logistical tip that I can give you is that our whole group drove through to Grootveld in 2 vehicles. We dropped off the hikers and the bags there, and then me and one other hiker drove through to Walkable. We left his car there, his vehicle there, and we drove through in my vehicle back to Grootveld. So we had one vehicle at the start, one vehicle at the finish, and we didn't have any problems. Our cars were very safe. Like I said, there's a ranger at the post at Outeniqua. There's a very small little post, but seems like there's a person there every day, and they do keep an eye on things. And that way, when you finish the hike, you can have a vehicle there to maybe drive through to Plets to get some fresh food, or obviously to go pick up the first vehicle on your way back. And it's advisable to leave some long life things in that vehicle, because you will be hungry when you get there. On this trail, I probably ate about twice the amount that I normally eat, or felt like I could. But yeah, just nice to have some fresh snacks and things waiting for you. Otherwise, you can just go pick that up on your way, because you will be hungry. Alright, well, I hope that this review helped you if you are planning to do this trip. If you've got any other questions that I maybe didn't cover in enough detail, please feel free to leave a comment, and I'll try and answer as best as I can. Yeah, thanks for watching, and please drop a thumbs up.